Hello, my name is John Duque, and I'm representing Group 1 in our Business 547 class taught by Dr. Dombar. This is a presentation for our Executive Brief Group project. Our topic is Meta censorship. Meta has faced several controversies regarding its content moderation, raising concerns about bias, transparency, and user trust. These issues have significant financial and regulatory implications to Meta. In this presentation, we will analyze the challenges Meta faces, explore the strengths and weaknesses of its approach, and provide recommendations for improvement. Ultimately, we'll want to highlight Meta's content moderation issues, which include scandals related to bias moderation, accusations of unfair content removal, transparency and trust concerns, and artificial-driven moderation challenges. Understanding these concerns matters as it impacts users' trust and perception of Meta. It highlights political and regulatory implications on the firm, as well as it creates financial and reputational risk. The presentation will go over key issues and challenges. We'll go over a SWOT analysis and financial impact, and recommendations for future improvements. The objective is to understand Meta's moderation crisis, examine its impacts on business and users, and explore strategic solutions, which will be outlining some actionable recommendations. Meta's moderation practices have led to transparency issues, political bias concerns, and increasing regulatory scrutiny. Users do not trust the system, and governments, both globally and in the United States, are stepping in. These issues do pose serious threats to Meta's reputation and financial stability. Some of the transparency issues to highlight are users' lack of clarity on moderation decisions, the unclear and inaccessible appeals process, and the fact that policies do vary across different regions. The political bias concerns speak to accusations of silencing conservative voices, lack of consistent enforcement, as well as the need for fairness and moderation. The user mistrust expands from the Cambridge Analytica crisis, in which we saw a breach in user data. There's a spread of misinformation which undermines credibility, and users feel they are unfairly targeted. Some of the regulatory scrutiny that Meta faces includes governments increasing oversight, potential of heavy fines and penalties, as well as ongoing congressional hearings which do have an impact on Meta's reputation. In our SWOT analysis, we help understand Meta's position. Despite its strengths like vast user base and financial stability, weaknesses such as reputation damage and regulatory scrutiny do represent risk. However, opportunities exist, especially in transparency, advancements in AI, and policy reforms. To highlight the strengths, some of the strengths include large active user base, which at this point is close to 3 billion users. There's a strong advertisement revenue stream. There is ongoing policy improvements and advanced artificial intelligence moderation tools. Some of the weaknesses to explore are reputational damage due to the bias claims, the user trust erosion from past scandals, regulatory scrutiny creating legal risk, and the inconsistency of AI moderation. Some of the opportunities to highlight for Meta are greater transparency and accountability, AI and machine learning advancements, stronger partnership with regulators, as well as vendors or third-party auditors, and user-centric policy improvements. Some of the threats Meta will need to account for are increased government regulations, public backlash and potential boycotts, and growing competition from emerging platforms that may have less constraints on what is posted or what can be shared user to user. We also need to look at balancing free speech and content control. As previously highlighted, Meta continues to weather major fines and costs related to moderation. However, its revenue and stock performance remain strong. However, long-term risk could impact stability, especially if regulatory fines increase and users shift to other platforms. Some of the regulatory penalties to highlight are a recent 5 billion FTC fine for privacy violations. There are compliance costs with new regulations, financial risk from ongoing scrutiny, and legal expenses from lawsuits. As highlighted before, revenue from advertisement continues to be strong. Businesses do still rely on Meta for marketing, and the financial stability does allow Meta to invest in infrastructure for policy changes. We do want to highlight that the decline in trust could hurt long-term earnings. Another area of finances to highlight is the stock performance. The stock continues to grow despite controversies. There was a minor dip in 2022, but again, the growth continues. There is potential future volatility depending on any new crises or any new concerns brought up by users or any local or global governments. Additional long-term risks are rising compliance and moderation costs, potential loss of advertisement over biased claims, users migrating to less restrictive platforms, and competition which reduce market share. As mentioned in the prior slide, Meta stock has posted price increases. The graph shows that Meta's price increase has been constant in 8 of the last 10 years and has increased a total of 822% in the last 10 years total. Currently, the stock price sits at $689.18. Additionally, the annual revenue for Meta has followed a similar trend as Meta stock, as it continues to post positive results year over year. The numbers over the last 10 years, with the exception of 2022, do show a continued increase. In 2022, there was a decline of 1.12%, but it is worth highlighting that in 2023, annual revenue bounced back with nearly a 16% increase. To rebuild trust, Meta must provide transparency, address political bias, and restore user confidence. Implementing independent audits, clear policies, and better AI oversight will help. Additionally, proactive engagement with regulators can ensure compliance while protecting the platform's integrity. The addition of vendor and third-party companies to moderate censorship is important, as it will allow for potential public knowledge of those audit results and ultimately help build trust. In conclusion, Meta must address transparency issues, rebuild user trust, and prepare for increased regulation. Striking a balance between moderation and free speech is critical for long-term success. The key question does remain: can Meta restore credibility while maintaining a thriving platform? Appreciate your time. Thank you.